All right, so on the topic of Queen's Park, it was quite a week, and joining me now to break down all the action is political expert Keith Leslie. Keith, thank you very much for joining us. First question, let's start off with the passing of the controversial Bill 5. Now, the new law allows the Ontario government to suspend provincial and municipal rules, and it's intended to speed up building projects. What does it actually mean for the province?
Projects or for the companies that are doing those projects, private companies. So this is pretty controversial. The other controversial part of it is, of course, the government rammed the bill through the legislature this week to get it done before they broke for the recess. But they did not consult the First Nations ahead of time, and they have a duty to do that. And so the First Nations are really, really upset. Indigenous leaders are threatening to revive protests like Idle No More this summer because they're so angry that the government rammed this bill through and says now it's going to consult. They say that's too late. You're supposed to consult us before you pass the bill and you force it through the legislature. So it could mean some economic turbulence for the government this summer. It could mean some challenges in court. It could mean some protests. But overall, it means the government can go ahead with its plan to stop taking up to 15 years to get a mining project underway, for example, and get it down to 1 or 2 years.
All right, Niagara Centre MPP Jeff Burch tabled a motion to eliminate hospital parking fees in the province, but the Ford government voted that down today. Now, it was obviously a nice idea, would save a lot of money for hospital patients and workers. Why do you think the Ford government said no thanks?
Oh, Premier Ford was pretty clear. The hospital CEO told him, you do this, you're going to have to replace that funding. We've come to rely on the funding from parking fees. And even though it's really, it's really hurting patients and it's hurting patients' families. I mean, anyone who's had a loved one in a hospital for an extended period of time, even 2 or 3 days, you're going back and forth. There's lots of seniors, taking up alternative level of care beds. They shouldn't be in a hospital, but they are. Their families are coming to visit them all day, 2 or 3 times a day. It's costing families hundreds of dollars just to visit a sick one in the hospital, or patients going in for chemo and for other treatments. Again, they're facing this. The staff are facing these. So it's a good thing. Nova Scotia has done it just recently. They've eliminated the parking fees at hospitals. They had a little bit of growing pains with it. All of a sudden the staff couldn't find parking, so they're going to have to reserve some for them specifically. But it's a major issue, I think, with most people. And of course, it's not an issue until all of a sudden you have to start visiting a hospital on a regular basis, perhaps on a daily basis. Then all of a sudden it really, really does add up for a lot of people. So it's an affordability issue, but the government cannot afford to subsidize all that funding the hospitals are getting from the parking fees.
All right, last one. Ontario members of Parliament are getting a big boost in pay and access to pension plans under new legislation introduced at Queen's Park. Now, they'll be getting $157,000 a year. That's up from more than $116,000 salary that had been in place since 2009. Now, I don't know your thoughts on this, Keith, but many question why MPPs deserve such a massive raise.
Well, their pay had been frozen since 2009, so 16 years of a pay freeze. So they all of a sudden voted themselves, and all the members voted for this in one day, all motion, no debate, a 35% pay raise. That's a lot of money, but of course, I say their pay had been frozen for a long, long time. Now, they also reinstated the provincial pension plan for MPPs. And I think this was something that was actually overdue and needed. Mike Harris wiped it out in 1995, and most voters, I think, assumed that the provincial MPPs still had a pretty good-looking golden-plated pension plan, as he used to call it. They don't. And some members have served entire careers without being eligible for a pension. So that's not fair. So it's good that they brought back an eligibility for MPPs, but to give themselves a 35% raise and then adjourn until October 20th, that's a pretty bold move, but a one that could be done by a government in its first year of a third-year majority government.
Yeah, tough look as well. Thank you very much for your time, Keith Leslie.
Thank you.